So I just want to say thank you for being here today, clicking on this video. Honestly, I don't even know if I really have a topic that I want to talk about today. I do have something I want to talk about, but it's not like, I wouldn't say my thoughts are super clear on it. It's more so just kind of what I'm feeling in this moment in time. And I'm gonna say like, it's kind of not great. So at the moment, I am a Cal Berkeley student, and I'm studying architecture here to get my master's. I previously completed my education at WashU, a 4-year degree, but it's not accredited. So I came here to Cal Berkeley to get my master's, which is accredited. Because the ultimate goal is to become a licensed architect. And, you know, being a Black man, there are not a lot of Black architects, Black licensed architects. So as a kid, like hearing that information and knowing that, you know, doing this was not going to be an easy task, I think that set a fire in me, and it gave me motivation, you know, to want to pursue this goal. You know, my parents didn't have an opportunity to go to college, and I'm just so grateful that I do have that opportunity. I'm grateful for the decisions that I've made, you know, up until this point. And I know I made a lot of good decisions. I know I made some bad ones. But I'm just, you know, I just want to say that first, that I am grateful for the position that I'm in. And I'm here. I'm a year in. The program is 2 years long, and I just completed my first year. I remember when I first got accepted, I was not sure, you know, how I was going to make this work. I'm originally from Mississippi, and coming from St. Louis, cost of living, St. Louis, Mississippi, very different. So coming to California, being hit with like the way, how much things cost, just like how crazy the housing situation is, it was very scary. Because a lot of my academic education has been, you know, without financial support of my family, just because, you know, they just don't have the means, you know, necessarily right now to, you know, support in the ways that maybe other people's families can. Not that I would even want them to do that. I have tried my very best to be as self-sufficient as I can, but I think it gets to a point where like sometimes you just don't know what you're gonna do. You don't know where the money's gonna come from. You just have to hope for the best. And I think what I've been trying to do and what I need to do more of is just rely on God more. You know, reading my Bible more, meditating on certain verses. You know, the idea that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I think there's a lot of insecurity that I'm feeling just in like my situation. So I guess to kind of explain what that situation is. So I'm currently about to re-sign on the place that I have now. It's expensive by my standards, but it's cheaper than most of the options around in the Berkeley area. And that's one of the main reasons I want to re-sign. Just because I like that it's furnished. I like that the rent is, I don't want to say decent. It's still very expensive, but it's more decent compared to other rent prices in the area. So that's one of the reasons I want to re-sign. And I think that that's just the best that's the best case scenario. So that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna resign. But here's the thing. Within my financial aid package that Berkeley offered me, they offered me like a $10,000 stipend for the first year, you know, which was very much needed because it helped a lot with paying for housing. Because I just don't have, you know, the necessary savings. I'm not able to like work that many hours just while I'm studying, because I think that would take away a lot from studying. And I did end up getting a job my first year. Ended up being, you know, just working with dining services on campus. And even then, when I tell people that, like, I always feel still a little embarrassed. Even though I shouldn't, you know, because a job is a job, and like, you know, hard work is hard work. But that's the job I have, just working 10 hours a week and using those funds to, you know, help out with everyday purchases and necessary purchases, such as plane tickets, such as, you know, paying for stuff that I need for school. It wasn't really going to be a job that was going to help, you know, with rent necessarily, just because I'd have to work like, I don't know, 3 months to cover, you know, one month of rent. So it's not a viable solution to pay for rent. And I think upping how many hours I work, you know, 10 to even like 15 or 20 would just be way too much. So I think right now I'm just really feeling the stress of the situation, and I'm about to sign this lease, and I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know how I'm going to pay off all of this. Like, I don't know how I'm going to like survive the full length of the lease. And that's a scary thing to have in front of you, a scary truth to deal with. And I don't know how I'm going to deal with it. My plan now is to save up as much money as I can from my internship this summer, and then use that to try to cover most of the fall semester. But in terms of the spring, at the moment I have no idea how I'm gonna make that work. I can try to save up as much money as I can while I'm working in the fall, but it won't be nearly as much as I'll need to adequately, you know, have all the money that I'll need. I was just talking to a friend, and like, she was telling me about Haslow's hierarchy of needs. And I feel like I'm at that first level of just feeling like a big sense of financial insecurity. And it's keeping me from finding joy, you know, in other areas of my life, which sucks right now. It's not a great feeling. Like, it sucks a lot. And just trying my best to keep it moving. At the moment, I'm tasked with, you know, packing up all my stuff and cleaning up the place so that we can have a successful checking out process. The landlord's going to come through and make sure there are no damages, which there shouldn't be any damages. I mean, it was a good stay. There was nothing like they got damaged or anything. But yeah, just kind of hoping for the best, and just trying to have faith, you know. The Bible says that faith, I might butcher this, but I think the Bible says that faith is the evidence of things unseen. And I can't remember the second part. Faith is the evidence of things unseen, and the hope. Yeah, I can't remember the second part. Yeah, gotta read my Bible more. But I'm realizing that in this situation, I cannot rely on myself. I just don't have the means. I need, to rely on God more, and I need to just have more faith, have more belief that I'm gonna be okay. And sometimes it's hard to be in that mindset. My external situation is not the greatest, and there's a bit of frustration that comes from that. But one of the things that I want to learn, and I want to try to commit myself to doing today, is learning to influence my external, by dictating what happens internally. So basically, obviously, if the external, which is your environment, is not, to your liking, if there's things that you're dealing with that are frustrating, if you're like suffering in any way, and this can be for anyone's situation, I think the best thing you can do, even if the best thing is not a solution to the situation, I think the best thing you can do is try your best to remain positive and to just continue to, have hope and have faith that things are going to be okay, but also to try to remain grounded in yourself, to believe that what you need is something that you'll have and that it's something that you can get one day. Like this idea that like, oh, I'm going to sign on this lease and I don't necessarily have the money for it. In order to one day have the money, I need to speak in a way where it's not a matter of not having it. It's a matter of I don't have it yet. And I think that's an important distinction. I think it's important to think that way. Because if you're always thinking that, I'm never gonna have this, I can't do it. If you're always thinking in an I can't mindset, then you will never have the thing that you want. It's like the situation to be or not to be. And I think in this situation, I choose to be a person who has faith, to be a person who is positive and, always has gratitude and, always chooses to see the best in any situation. And as of right now, that's all I can really do. And I feel like that can be a good trump card if you use it to the best of your ability. You just have to be intentional every single day. Like one thing that I'm trying to make sure that I focus on a lot is having a great morning routine, because I think a morning routine basically sets you up for the entire day. Like if you're wanting to have a productive, positive, meaningful day, you need to be right in your head. You need to be right mentally, to prepare yourself for the task ahead. If you have a horrible start to your day, that can impact so much of the things that you need to get done, so much of how you interact with people. And I think that's something that we should think about more intentionally. Like when we wake up, it's so easy to, get on your phone, to doom scroll over to Instagram or TikTok, watching a lot of this mindless, content that we forget about 30 seconds later. And I think it forces us to exist in this complacency of, I'm okay just doing this. But I want to live with a greater sense of urgency, a greater sense of hunger within my being, alongside, peace and stability. I think the biggest piece of, this situation that I'm trying to figure out, and I can't necessarily see the end of it, the biggest positive in this is that it's forcing me to be more creative in terms of how I'm choosing to problem solve and the different ways that I can problem solve. And like, it's making me more, it's forcing me to, think of all these different ways that I can find a solution. And in this race of trying to complete this goal of, how paying rent every month until the end of my lease. I think in being faced with a situation like that, you're forced to be creative in ways that you might have never done had you have not been in that situation. And I think that's something that I need to look into more, that I need to take advantage of more. And I think also it's not a bad thing is, if you're struggling about a situation, if you're struggling within a particular situation, because I think at the end of the day, we're still humans. We still go through things. We still have flaws. We still have things that we're not sure about, things we're uncertain about within the world around us, but also within ourselves. So I think it's okay to have grace, but I think at a certain point, we just need to be thoughtful and intentional about the things that we can control. And right now, I don't have the power to, make money appear out of thin air, but I know I do have the power to alter the way that I think. I do have power to do things that alter the way that I feel. And I have the power to alter the way people around me feel. So I think I guess to put everything in summary, your situation is separate from you. You are your own individual regardless of what you're going through. And I think if you remember that, you can always keep your head on the swivel. You can always stay upright, You are not your situation. You can be so much more. You can be so much greater, so much bigger than the current conditions that you're facing. And I think for right now, I choose to be bigger. I choose to be greater. I choose to be a much more powerful force than not having the money to pay my lease. What if I talked in a sense that what kind of problem is that? Such a small problem. I'm gonna figure it out. What if I talked as if I was the future me who has already figured this out? What if I talked in a way that this is just a problem that's already been solved? I just don't see the solution yet. What if I lived in that way? And I don't think that's a crazy thing to come to realize. I think it's a crazy thing to do and to master. And I think that's the journey that I want to put myself on. You are not your situation. You can be so much more. Thank you.